The views, information or opinions expressed during the Journey podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved and does not represent Wise Words Imaging or any other company. Wise Words Imaging is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy. Any of the information contained in the podcast series is available from the respective owner. Enjoy the show.
So, it says here, have you ever asked yourself, who am I? What am I here for? Have you ever asked yourself, why me? Our guest today, Amanda, certainly has asked those questions all her life. As a teacher, she strives to help children discover who they are and how to find the self-love within a book. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, David. Lovely to meet you.
I'd love to meet you. So, first question is, you said, have you ever asked yourself, who am I? What was the basis behind that question?
I think I felt lost. I grew up with 3 siblings and it was a very busy household. And, I was expected to do the next part, get the exams, go to university, etc. And then especially once I became a mother, I wasn't even called Amanda anymore. I was called Alessandro's mum. And what I realized is I had no idea what I was all about. I was a mother as a title. I was a teacher, a sister, daughter. But my identity were all labels. It were all hats I put on, and I was sort of multitasking with lots of hats. And it wasn't really who I am, but it fitted into what society expected of me. And I think very few people actually sit and think, who actually am I? Who was I born to be? Because I believe we're all molded by society, by the environment, even our families, to be a certain way. And that's the way we go, which is really sad.
Yeah, so you're saying about being molded. Did you think you was molded intentionally to be in that role and molded to be that person, or did you just expect to do it yourself and you thought, well, I'll do it myself because that's what they expect of me?
Well, it's expectations and demands. So my mom, I wasn't that bright at school. I couldn't read till I was 9. And in those days, you were really told off and punished for not doing well in school, which is really sad as well. But I was expected to get the exams, and academics and me really didn't match. I'm a people person, and I remember being in Ireland on holiday with my parents. I met a little girl who's 4 years old who had just had her first day at school, and I was 15 at the time, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do. Because the delight of a 4-year-old, they're all about curiosity, creativity, and she was just delightful. So it took me quite a while to get all the exams that I needed to get onto that path. And I have been teacher nearly for 30 years. But in the last 2 years, I've come back to myself because that wasn't enough. I still felt there was a big hole missing inside me. And I realized I had to share my story to get it out there, to get over myself, and actually to who I, appear to be by friends and society and people at work, etc.
So you said about being called Alexandra and Mum. Did you think that was a grand title? Did you feel intimidated by that name? Did you feel...
Well, you see, I always wanted to be a mother. I thought I would leave school, get a job teaching, and I'd be engaged, married, and have kids by 30. And of course, that didn't happen at all. So how you, especially when you're young and a teenager and you're viewing your life, that all went out the window. So I was sort of left. I did go abroad when I was 30 to the Philippines, and coming away from the family unit was good because I started growing up on my own. But even then, it's like I was always searching, trying to fit into other people's expectations and demands of me, rather than going it back to myself and thinking, what do you actually want?
Yeah, I understand that totally. It's like I can relate to that. I grew up, my mum was a single mum, and for so many years, I don't mind talking about it because that's about my journey as well. But
yes.
For so many years, I was always trying to find identity by being different, I suppose, and being, because I'm to being autistic as well nowadays.
Yeah.
I find it more difficult to understand that concept. Even back then, now I was, because I was just trying to please everyone and try to get the attention that I craved for.
Absolutely.
And I assume that's what you wanted. You
Yeah.
wanted a person for you to be you.
Acknowledged. And you use the term people pleaser, and I'm so glad you used that, because that's exactly what I was. I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be accepted, I wanted to fit in, but inside I felt so different, and that I wasn't the normal, or whatever normal is, and I'm quite glad I'm not the normal now. But people pleasing, what you're doing is you're living your life through their values, through their wants, their needs. And I had this story going that I was only around if I could be useful for other people. I never put myself first. I didn't see any value in myself. And you're born with value, and little ones up to the age of 4 or 5, when they go to school, they're full of absolute excitement. And then we start being conformed and told what to do, and they have to follow the rules. And although rules are necessary, I'm not saying they're not, but what I know working with little ones, they are so creative, they're so imaginative. And then with the curriculum and things, we're told what we have to study, when we've got to study it, and for how long. And that goes on because society today thinks school, maybe university, then job, then you're meant to get into a relationship, and then kids, and your whole life is mapped out for you, and nobody actually stops you and says, well, should you do this? Is this the way now forward? Or could we do something different that would suit you? And I think that's the place I'm at.
So you also admit to having depression, which took over your life, which, best life with happiness and joy. It says you're still searching for the one to complete you, your soulmate. You say stop.
Yes.
I stopped because it is in capital letters how it says stop.
Well, there's actually a YouTube clip with a comedian, I forget his name, and it's called Stop It. And it's basically that somebody's going to a psychotherapist for help. And he says it'll take 5 minutes and it'll cost you £2. And she can't believe it. And it's so funny to watch, because all they say is just stop it, because it is the mind. And I was attached to my mind like, hand in the glove. I thought my mind was my real thoughts, were me. I thought thoughts from other people were the honest truth, and it's not. Your thoughts are just your egos, whether you're fitting in or you're not fitting in. It's the judgment that comes. And what I've realized, I just say stop it. I used to hate sitting in silence because I couldn't bear the noise of silence, although that sounds strange. And I have started meditating for the last year and a half. And I've actually accepted myself and the feelings that come up. And rather than running and hiding and avoiding, which was a tendency of mine, I just faced, this is it. I'm actually in the now. I'm absolutely safe. But I lived a lot of my life either reminiscing about the past or worrying about the future. And I miss the now totally, which seems mad. But I think we're so busy nowadays. That's exactly how we live our lives.
Yeah, because everyone tends to, I know I've done it myself, you tend to dwell too much on the past, or you think what's going to occur. And then people, and I admit to this as well, I'm not but I don't think, what's today? What am I doing today? Because you never know what is today. But it is a key thing to look to, because you've got to make the most of today and not for tomorrow or yesterday, as the saying goes. Live for today, not for tomorrow, or wherever the saying goes. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, what I've found out recently, I think, because you think you're this body, and I thought my mind was real, but I realized that the mind actually needs structure, as in knowing what to do. So I've got a morning routine now, because otherwise I can just sit on a sofa and waste the day, and then you get pulled down if you're feeling low, and that doesn't help. So I have a structure that I get up in the morning. I do a bit of dancing, because I don't like exercise, but a little dancing to something is great. And then my soul needs the joy, and I get that through the children at school. But then it's also realizing, what do you enjoy? Not that your friends enjoy, what makes you good. So my husband bought me a karaoke machine for Christmas, and I said, can I have one? And he went, really? I said, yeah, I know I can't sing, but I don't care. I just love singing. And the next day he's up there with me, and then I found him practicing. So it's just amazing how much joy in the simple things you can find. But as you say, you're either worried about things that didn't go well in the past or worried that you're going to make mistakes in the future. And actually, mistakes are fine because you can learn from them. As long as self-sabotage was a great one of mine, thinking I was no good at whatever. And that's absolutely baloney, because I know that if you put your mind towards something, it doesn't matter if it doesn't, shine bright like a diamond on the first go. It's actually in the journey itself that's important rather than the end product. And for example, with schools, we're all about the results. And I just think that's so wrong. I think you should enjoy the journey and what you can pick up on the way and what you learn about yourself, more importantly.
So is it about targets and expectations nowadays in schools? Because you talk about...
There are a lot. I work in a private school at the moment, in a primary school. So they got up to 11. At the moment, year 6 are trying to get into schools. And the parents, because they've been taught by their parents, it's all about results and studying hard and getting them. But life has changed so much. I mean, when I was young, we didn't have computers. You can find a lot of the information on the push of a button now. And yet life skills, accepting who you are, talking about your feelings, what feelings are, talking about the mind, how we interact with one another. I think those things are so much more important to come back to, and being mindful. Mindfulness is what I do at school. It's not on the curriculum per se, but I put that in. I was a drama teacher for a while, and I used to start the lessons that way, because I think it's actually just stopping and thinking for yourself is important. And we don't encourage that. We're all sort of following we're in the same stream, following the same flow, rather than thinking, no, I want to stop here and take time doing whatever it is.
Because I understand, and this is me still understanding the schooling in England, the curriculum is how it is. You can't really deviate from that set curriculum, even though you like to say, this is this, and I'll do it this way. You have to still follow that guideline set.
Yes, the national curriculum, it came in when I was learning to be a teacher, and they've updated in 2014. And it is very structured, but it's great leaving school knowing knowledge. But if that knowledge going to help you, to pay your bills, to get a job, to sit in interviews, it's more than just a job. And I think with COVID, with people staying at home and lockdown, life has changed, and it's actually made people stop and think, my goodness, what's it all about? And actually having the time to think, well, what do I want for life? Rather than thinking I will go to work for the next 20 years or whatever it might be, and then I'll retire, because we're all waiting for retirement to do what we want to do. And then when you're retired, you're too old to do some of the things you want to do.
Yeah. It's like I'm admin on my old school where I used to go secondary school.
Yeah.
And someone posted a picture about the National Record of Achievement folder, the old burgundy folders. Yeah. And some people were saying, what's that? I don't use that. And I took it into an interview, and they didn't need to look at it. And I'm thinking, because they don't want to look at that, they want to look at you. And I assume whatever age you are, even if you have a piece of paper to say, I've got X, Y, or Z qualification.
That's just a piece of paper. It's not you. As you said at the beginning, who am I? What I've realized is I'm full of joy. I'm full of purpose, as in, this is one life. There's a saying that I say, if your mind will go, is this it? As in, oh, woe is me. But your soul will go, this is it. Come on, make the best of it. And that's what I'm trying to infuse with the children, because young children are like that generally. But as parents ourselves, we're a bit jaded with life and all the rest of it. And we're hard on ourselves. And we don't forget that, just out in nature, if you go out in the garden or wherever, it's beautiful out there. And actually stop to smell the roses, the saying. But when do we stop? Because we're so busy.
Yeah.
And it's time to actually just stop, hold, draw a breath, and think, it's okay to be me. Look at what's happening in this moment. It's just this. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about. And yet our way of living, I mean, for example, the news on the telly, I don't listen to it. because it's just all doom, gloom, war, and all the rest of it. And I won't have it on in the house, because if you sat watch that, you'd just be pulled down into, you know, a lower frame of mind.
Yeah, I understand.
Why can't they put positive things out there? But then maybe that doesn't sell. I don't know.
Well, I know from my experience, because I've worked on the radio, they try and give you a story that will get your attention. They look at stories in between that still get your attention, and then they tend to brush aside the little stories that make people laugh nowadays. Even the, you know, and finally moment, it's not really a moment of like relief. It's something that's like, and finally, did you know? No, I'm thinking, really? There's no real clarity, and I'm saying this in the media point of view, because I have to say there is no real clarity in the way the news is. It's all one. Like I got this. I got my script. You know, on green screen. But the fact is, people have a script. It's like they get told what to say. They can't be. You know, when was the last time you watched the news in England, in America, wherever? And it actually was something that came from the art.
That is one thing I will say, you know, with the NHS and the Thursday clapping that we were doing. I don't know if you do anything the same.
Yeah, tap for carers.
But my goodness, it brought the whole neighbourhood out, you know, because we don't see each other as neighbours in London. And yet during this lockdown, it's been beautiful because all the kids have got to know each other. We've been doing yoga lessons out on the streets and actually just recognising that nurses and doctors and, you know, all the medical staff, the effort, and they've done it not for the money or anything like that, but just because of their hearts, and they want to look after people. And actually that has warmed everybody's hearts. So why can't we have more of that? It's like they want the Newman, the gloom, as you say, the glamour and the like the end of EastEnders, the do.
Yeah.
We don't need the do. We want a bit more of the lightness and the laughter. Children laugh, I think, 15 times more than adults, and they're so much happier and free.
Yeah, and I you know, the younger the child, like you said, 5-6-year-olds, I'm not saying they are mature, but they understand so much more than an average adult would.
They're
and
open.
It's surprising. Yeah.
No, they're open to possibilities. They're open to wonder and miracles. They don't think there is only one way of doing it. Because I think what we're doing in society, we like to put people in boxes and put them on a shelf with a label. And what I'm trying to do in school and in my own family is let's open up the box. It's scary when you've been in a box for a long time, and come out and say, right, no, I'm not being contained in these walls anymore. This is me. And it's actually what I've realized from being a people pleaser. I know not everyone's going to like me, and I've accepted that. That's absolutely fine. Some people will like me whatever I do, and the others, it doesn't matter. There's a great phrase I've learned, which I didn't like at all when I said it the first time. In fact, I battled it, was thank you, but not what you think of me is none of my business. And I battled with that because your opinion of me was my business, because that's where my worth came from, because I hadn't come home to myself, as I say. And by coming home to myself now, I was born, I am in the right job for me, but I don't want to be contained by or a description. I'm more than a teacher. I'm a person with a heart. I've got a lot of joy, as I said. I want to have fun. And I want to acknowledge the fun and the laughter and the wonder in other people, because we're all amazing.
Yeah. So you started writing your book. Was this just from the early outset of you discovering yourself when you realised?
It was. I started a course with a lady called Anna Garcia called Relationship Intensive, and it's based for women. And I had basically got so sick of my own story and all the woe is me. And I just said, I've wanted to do a story 20 years ago or write a book. And I thought, well, I'm not good enough. I couldn't do that. Possibly. And she put me in contact with her publisher, and we did it over conversations. And the first copy I got, it was just so dismal. I just had to laugh and went, put that in the bin. It's so depressing. And I realized I'd been writing it from my past and living it in the victim mode. So I started again, threw out all the window, and the sense of relief I got from it, because finally I put everything to bed. And I know I never have to go back there again. It's done, dusted, and I am who I am now. And on taking that, I then did a 30-day book challenge. And I decided, because I love children, I wanted to create something about feelings, because we think we are feeling. Kids say, I am happy, I am sad, I am cross. They're not, they're feeling those things. So I created the Mood Munchers, who are a range of characters that children, through the stories, these characters come into us, but they're like guest mates. They just come and go. Oh, come in the front door and they go out the back door, because we never stay in the same emotion all the time. And I've done about disgust, compassion, pride, shame, guilt, all those feelings that people don't like talking about, as if we're all, fabulous all the time. But I suffered from depression for years. I was living in shame and fear and guilt. And I wanted to stop that. And that was in my family narrative. And I wanted to stop it, because I don't want that carrying on for my son.
Yeah.
It stops with me. And it's how I show up to him and everybody else in my life each day. And it's a decision. And it's actually being reflected. And I have time. I get up 2 hours earlier than anybody else in the household to have my time for me. And then I'm just ready to go.
Yeah. So would you say your family are understanding you better now than they were when you was at that stage?
Oh, yes. I mean, my husband's wonderful. I've been married 13 years and I got depression with him. And most guys, quite honestly, would have left. But he didn't, because he's got the soul like me. But now we're just can communicate so much. I was very resentful for him, because I saw him at being at a higher level, a more peaceful level, if you like. Whereas I could never get over myself. And I can laugh about that now, because I'm so over myself when he's another over. And I just laugh now. Alessandro himself, because he used to say to me, oh, Mum, you're not happy, you're not happy. And he then started saying he was blaming. And I realized I had lived my life saying, oh, it's my fault and things like that. We've changed that language. It's our responsibility now. And even the change in the language changes it. So I think very carefully before I speak, especially if it's about emotions. And, you're going to have your good days and bad days. And you're going to have your days you're tired. And I'm not so great when I'm tired. But it's realizing, what do you need? Because if you don't look after yourself first, you can't show up for anybody else. And I always put other people first, because I was taught by my parents that to put yourself first was selfish. And it's, we don't do that, not in this household. But what I've realized is, if you don't accept yourself, give yourself what you need first, we expect other people to fill ourselves up. And actually, everything we've got, when we need, is inside ourselves. But nobody told us that growing up.
So going forward, what you said about inspiration and a journey for yourself. Mm-hmm. Was there any inspiration that came from within yourself, or was it from what you heard on the TV or radio, or did you just...
With me, I've always, when I was at school, and as I said, I struggled with reading. I was taught by nuns, Catholic school, and it was the ruler if you couldn't do things, and I was labelled stupid. And I knew I wasn't stupid, but I didn't get how I was taught. Now, as I realised, we're all different types of learner. You're either auditory, visual, kinesthetic learner, and you can't teach the same way. Even in one room of children, you've got to find the way. And I teach children now to say, I don't understand, Mrs. Hill. Could you put it in another way? I said, of course I can. And then you've just got to work that out. But my journey was, I am not letting anybody tell any child that they are not capable. We are all capable, and we're capable of things in our own uniqueness. And to be put in a box that you have to do it a certain way, no more. I'm not having that. I can be a bit dramatic and wow, as one little girl said to me yesterday, Mrs. Hill, you are unusual. I said, why? You're so positive. You're singing and dancing around all the time. But, if you're in a maths class, you can make maths fun. And if I see that they're losing it, we change the tempo, get up, move around. And it's about we are human beings. We're meant to connect. We're meant to communicate. And sitting down at a desk for children for long hours is not really productive. So I just want, my thing is to really empower people to realize that they can be who they were born to be. I knew I cared about people. I knew I've got that caring side about me. And I've just gone about teaching in a different way, that I will not put children down. I don't have to be the boss of them. I don't have to be in control, because I was a big control freak. But I've let that go now. And the release and the freedom I feel now. But you see, I wasn't taught things like that at school, or even by my parents. It was just, so this is how it's done. It's always been done, and we will continue to do it this way.
Yeah. So when you said about you was taught this way, it's a structure. You had to learn that structure, no matter
And there's
what.
no other way. It's been proved right once upon a time, but life has changed. It's like, Disney films. When I was young, it was, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, waiting to find your prince. And then you could be completed because you were not enough on your own. I've watched Soul by Disney and Inside Out, and I love that because it's really getting to that we are a being with a soul and a spirit and an energy that's so special. And they're not doing the thing. You're waiting for somebody else to come along and fix you. There's nothing to be fixed. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just having a go with what you think best. If it doesn't work out, fine. Change it, make another choice, and do it another way.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. When I immigrated to America,
Yes.
I made that choice to come to America because I wanted to.
Yes.
Now, I had people doubting me. I'm saying one example, my own mother, she doubted me. She hasn't spoken to me for so many years now, but she doubted me. She said, you won't make it by not doing this, not doing that. And I'm thinking, yes, I will. I made a joke with her when I was younger, saying, you'd be a grandma by 40. She was. Of course. But the point, that's one example. I always made a joke of things because that's how I wanted to be. But I was still that constraint of being structured by the way she was saying, this is this, this is this. And I'm thinking, no, but I'm 23 now, you're a grandmother. And she, in wisdom, grew to love that and respected that because it was her first grandchild.
Yes.
And obviously I can't see my daughter now for obvious reasons. And I'm thinking she's being raised the way I want it to be raised, and it's sadly not the way I want it to be.
No.
But I've got to get used to it.
But then, as I think, our parents, I mean, mine were a lot older than my friends' parents, but they were raised by their parents. It's inherited. And in those days, there was only one way, but the world has opened up so much. And, people didn't fly around the world. I mean, going to America is, 50, 60 years ago, that wouldn't have even been happening. And the opportunities are there, the connections, even this, the fact we're in COVID, but we can talk to each other like this, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But our parents thought there was only one way to do it because that's how they've been taught. And I'm sort of in between because I'm not young, I'm not old, I'm sort of in that between. So I've seen both. I grew up in the 70s, so I knew what that sort of lifestyle was like. But I was a bit nervous of all the computers, but I've had to embrace it because that's the future. But that I can do it my way. And unless it's taking the risks, because people, I believe, and I was one of them, like to play small, I like to play comfortable and safe. I don't have to step out or whatever. And then I just thought, no, the people I've met through the RI course have just opened my eyes. And there's people like me that have realized there has to be more to this than just, existing, surviving, paying the bills. What's it for? And I think it's what's for is to make a difference. And if I make a difference in one person's life, I'm happy.
So tell us about your book then, because I will put the link in the description of the video and the podcast.
So the I Choose Me, and this is it. I Choose Me, loving yourself is your magic wand. And that's what I've my biggest discovery is that everything I wanted when I was trying to be a people pleaser and sort of I was very needy, like, oh, love me, love me, love me. I can love myself. And if we teach each other to love yourself first, and when you're full up like that, then it just oozes out of you because you're open, you're not needing anything from anybody else. Basically, my book goes through from my childhood. It's got who am I? Belonging, because I didn't feel I fitted in. Narratives, because we've inherited things that our parents believed. And you all say, I won't turn out to be my father or my mother. And then you hear this phrase come out of your mouth and you go, oops, that wasn't meant to happen. I talk about avoidance under the duvet with my depression. But then I've talked about forgiveness and forgiving myself. Forget other people. Forgiving myself, and I have gone back and healed the inner child inside me. And what I mean by that is everybody inside themselves has still got that little girl or boy, and something might have happened along your way that you were told off for, or somebody gave you a harsh judgment, and you stopped being how you were being, and you started to conform to fit in, i.e. not to get told off, to be accepted. And that little girl, I didn't get the love. My parents were both very busy working people. I had older sisters, and there wasn't anybody around to give me that, love and attention that I'd craved as a little one. And when I did some meditation, I saw her in a heap on the floor. And I first got across, why isn't anybody looking after her? Like, why didn't my mum do that? Why didn't my dad do this? And then I suddenly thought, stop it, Amanda. You're here now. And I thought, right. It's beautiful, really. I've had all the experience of my life. I'm confident in who I am now. So I can pick her up with her creativity, her innocence, and her curiosity. And the two of us together can go forward, and there's nothing to stop us. And that's made me realize I'm going to go on to write children's books, do podcasts, because I just think the world needs more positivity. And it's so simple to actually just come back to yourself, but we're so scared of taking the leap and the fear, because if we're not the teacher, or we're not the mother, and we're not the daughter or the son or any other label you want to give us, who are we? And that scares people.
Yeah, totally. I really understand that. Thank you very much, Amanda. It has been a pleasure understanding your journey, and may your journey flourish more, because like I always see the journey, you're like and it does say in other places, you're a small tree and you flourish from that.
Yes, definitely.
And the saying goes, carpe diem, seize the moment or seize the day, whatever it is.
Yes.
And
seize this moment and enjoy it and embrace it. And don't worry about anything else. That's beautifully put, David.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And if anyone wants to get your book, they can get it from Amazon, I assume.
Yes.
Or
there's I Choose Me, and then for children it's called Meet the Mood Munchers, and I've got 3 children's books out, and I'm doing one for parents now, because we all need to deal with our emotions.
Thank you, Amanda.
Take care, David. Thank you so much for having me on.
That was a Wise Words Imaging production. Thank you for listening, and catch you again very soon for another The Journey.